Behind Dutch Headlines, the who, why, and how of politics and media.
Hello, it's me, Greg Shapiro, the American Netherlander. Here's what you need to know to join the Dutch conversation. What a week it was. We've got an international standoff with Russia and Greenpeace. There's the NSA wiretapping scandal. How will it affect the Netherlands? We don't have time for any of that. If you want the details, then check our Facebook page and listen to the Behind Dutch Headlines podcast. This week, there's only room for one big topic, the cultural war in the Netherlands known as the Zwarte Piet debate. Now, this cultural war began, as it does every year, as a war of words. There have been a number of informed pieces in the national newspapers about the history of the evolution of these characters. Sinterklaas, who originally comes from, and the Zwarte Piet character, who is the dark-skinned Moor from Spain, or basically, so, in essence, the biggest holiday on the Dutch calendar is being run by a Turk and a bunch of Moroccans. So, who declared war? Ironically, it was the United Nations. That's a first. A woman from the UNHCR went public saying that Sinterklaas is racist. And the Dutch went on war footing. Red alert from the media to politics. Mark Rutte came out saying, "We're not racist." The Telegraaf, Zwarte Piet is not racist. There was a group on Facebook, the Petitie, with the fastest growing Facebook page ever. And there was even a march, a protest on the Malieveld in The Hague, organized by the Freedom Party, Geert Wilders' PVV, to prove that Zwarte Piet is not racist. It was just a bunch of white people putting on blackface and not shouting at anybody until, unfortunately, there was one black woman who was also protesting the United Nations, but no one told them that. Tensions are at an all-time high. Now, as an American, I love a good war, but as it turns out, the woman from the United Nations had no authority to speak in the first place. And isn't this the Netherlands? The country of tolerance, the country of pragmatism, of polder model, sitting around at a table with all parties involved until we can come up with a compromise. Now, we know that there's been a whole history of evolution, of makeovers for Zwarte Piet throughout the ages. There's been this Piet, don't forget this Piet. They've even tried Rainbow Piet, and now we've got Militant Piet. But what about a nice compromise-based Piet? Someone who won't offend everybody, who's friendly and universally loved. What about Polder Piet? And going from the cultural scene in the Netherlands to a more European perspective, let's go to our Brussels correspondent, Beurs van Berlage. Beurs, what's funny about Belgium?
The Prime Minister, Elio Di Ruppio. You thought you had a cultural war going on in the Netherlands. Well, in Belgium you have the French-speaking part and the Dutch-speaking part, and they don't get along. So what did they do? They elected an Italian, a Belgian Italian, son of two Italian immigrants. You could compare it with, let's say, if Marco Borsato will become Prime Minister of Holland.
Interesting point, Beurs, relating to the earlier piece. I can't think of the last time that the Netherlands has had a prime minister as a child of two foreign immigrants, or even one. What else do we know about this Di Ruppio fellow?
Well, Greg, for years the Dutch have prided themselves to be the most liberal country in the world. Prostitution, drug policies, gay rights, you name it, the Dutch were there first. And with Pim Fortuyn, they might even have had the first openly gay prime minister. That didn't happen, and where the Dutch left off, the Belgians took over. Elio Di Ruppio is proud to be gay. Now, with Mark Rutte being a very boring single white male and Silvio Berlusconi off the European platform for the coming 2 years, with Elio we might have a good story or two in the coming years. You never know, he might turn out to be a bit of a drama queen. And speaking of drama queens, next week more about the European elections.
Now, before we go, don't forget, this coming Sunday, it is time for the annual Expatica Trade Fair. I am not a tourist, and as usual, I will be there giving a crash course on Dutch culture called Culture Shock Therapy. It is at the Beurs van Berlage in the center of Amsterdam, right behind the Bijenkorf on Dam Square, and we'll be there with our Behind Dutch Headlines cameras. We will be interviewing you, the expats and internationals, to find out what is so great about the Netherlands, and also what would you like to change about the Netherlands in a new segment that we will call Should I Stay or Should I Go? That's it for Behind Dutch Headlines this week. I'll see you on Sunday at the I Am Not a Tourist Fair in Amsterdam. Tot dan! Thank you very Dutch.